Nestor Cortes is headed for an MRI on his left elbow as it appears that he sustained an injury right ahead of the playoffs, and Aaron Boone and the Yankees are going to have to figure out a way to fix this situation and mend the possibility that Nestor Cortes could now be missing the playoffs if worst comes to worst and he has a serious elbow injury. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Yankees Digest. It's Chris here. Make sure you subscribe to the channel because we have a lot of news upcoming with the playoffs going, and that includes the big one right now that Nestor Cortes is out of tonight's game on Wednesday, September 25th, and it could be a lot longer than that. Now, as mentioned by Jack Curry, there was concerning news for the Yankees as Nestor Cortes, who was tonight's scheduled starter, is getting an MRI in his left elbow. He's been dynamic lately with one earned run in his last 15 1/3 innings and loomed as a valuable weapon in the postseason as a reliever or a starter. Now, initially, it seemed like Nestor was certainly going to be a guy who was in the bullpen in the playoffs. The Yankees only have so many left-handed pitchers on the 40-man roster, and there was a real situation where looking at the way that Carlos Rodon is pitching, that they would rather have another lefty in the bullpen and having Nestor there ready to pitch a ton of innings out of the pen if he has to, with Garrett Cole being the number one starter for the playoffs and Rodon definitely being number two. The third option was up for grabs. It wasn't going to be Stroman, who's moved to the bullpen, who seems perfectly fine with moving to the bullpen, I should add, but it also... You take into account someone like a Clark Schmidt, who was good and then got injured and is now back, or Luis Heel, who was great and then slowed down due to fatigue issues. The Yankees had a lot of different options to roll with their starting pitcher, and Nestor was really running away with the opportunity to be that third starter in the playoffs. Now it's unclear if Nestor will even be healthy in the playoffs or next playoffs, because obviously whenever a pitcher is getting an MRI on the elbow that they throw with, everyone thinks the same thing, Tommy John surgery. It's just how we all go to. It's just, this is the world we live in with baseball. When someone's getting an MRI on their elbow that they're pitching with, everyone goes to, he tore his UCL, didn't he? That's how everyone reacts. Now, obviously, that's not always the case. There's perfectly so many times where it's a strain or something like that, or just soreness or inflammation, and then they're back in a few days or whatever, I guess. But look, the Yankees are now in a weird situation. They need to figure out who their third starter is going to be in the playoffs. It seemed like it was not going to be Nestor at all until it seemed like it would absolutely be Nestor with the way the man was pitching. Now, Nestor went out there, and since September began, he's had an ERA of 2.79. The man has been a phenomenal weapon for the Yankees. Yes, there's consistency issues, but right now he is on one. But unfortunately, he will now be missing time. Now, on the season, Nestor's been interesting. He's had moments where he's looked like he's done and he got figured out, and then bounce back moments and bad moments. And in 31 games, obviously a negative win-loss record. The ERA plus is over 100, but he's had 162 strikeouts, which is the same amount of hits he's allowed, which isn't the worst thing in the world. And the ERA of 3.77 for a starting pitcher is absolutely fine. That's a fine guy to have out on your team, but, you know, he's been great recently, especially this ERA. You have to understand Nestor was real bad at a part of this season. Now we're in a different part of the season where Nestor's looked better. He's looked absolutely dynamic for this team, and you just look at them, and you're now wondering what they're going to do. The Yankees have a ton of pitchers. They have a good problem in baseball to have, which is the fact that they had 6 starting pitchers who all could do the job in 5 spots. Now with Nestor out, once again, they're back down to 5. They're going to have to figure out. Now, obviously, you're not running a 5-man pitching rotation in the playoffs regardless. You're running 3. Some teams will probably do a 4-man. But the Yankees are certainly going to run 3, headed by Cole and Rodon, who are going to pitch the most. It's rough to figure out who the next guy is going to be, because it would have been Nestor at this point. I understand they need more lefties in the bullpen, but it would have been Nestor. Now, someone to mention here is Cody Poteet, who, if he gets the job, that would be shocking. As we all know, he's not going to, and if he did, that would actually just be very stunning. But as mentioned by ESPN, the Yankees could turn to Marcus Stroman, who recently shifted to the bullpen, or Cody Poteet to start in Cortes' place. and that's about today. Now, Stroman last pitched 8 days ago, throwing 3 innings in his first and only relief appearance this season. The Yankees would need to create a spot in the active roster for Poteet, who was recently activated from the 60-day injured list and sent down to AAA. Now, Poteet's had his moments where he's looked very good. Stroman's had his moments. Marcus Stroman has done what Marcus Stroman usually does. He's been a great teammate to have. Some days he looks like one of the best pitchers on the planet. Other days, the man cannot get it going. Look, he's a breaking ball pitcher. That's going to happen. Sometimes you're just going to look terrible, and sometimes you're going to look phenomenal. Now, it's a risk to take in the playoffs. Maybe you go Stroman. I weirdly don't hate the idea. I know some people are pretty anti-Marcus Stroman being that third starter. I don't mind it at all. I would rather Clarke Schmidt. If I'm being honest, if we're talking about playoff rotations, which, well, we're going to do for the next few minutes, because it's my channel, and I decide. But in all seriousness, looking at the playoff rotation, you wonder what's going to happen. And I want to say that they're going to go with Clarke Schmidt because the way Clarke Schmidt started the season, they're going to bank on him getting back to being that guy with it under 3 ERA, absolutely dicing people up to start the year. He's had some time to kind of get back, warm back up. So there's a world where Clarke Schmidt can turn around and be who he was in the beginning of this season in the playoffs. The Yankees, I could totally see them taking that risk, at least at first. Now, this doesn't mean that it's going to be a set-in-stone thing. Clarke Schmidt could start in, let's say the Yankees aren't playing in a wild card game. Let's say they're not going to. It doesn't seem like they're going to. So let's say that their playoffs start a bit later. You're starting in that ALDS series. Not the end of the world if you're going to start Clarke Schmidt in Game 3 of that, especially if you win the first 2 with Cole and Rodon. Clarke gets hit around. Next time around, you go with Stroman. Boom. Problem solved. You can go with Heel. You have a few different options. Now, I would imagine Heel's going to be in the bullpen, just considering the fact that looking at Luis Heel, he's great. Don't get me wrong. He's going to be a massive part of this team in the future. But coming off these injuries, not playing a lot before this season, he clearly fatigued. He's played a full season of baseball. There's a world where he's just not going to have much left in the tank, where after a 4th inning, he's going to really struggle. Now, he could definitely spearhead a game if the Yankees want to do a bullpen-centric playoff game. He can totally be the guy to start that, throw 3 to 4 innings, get out of there, and have someone else come in. Maybe another starter from the bullpen. So maybe the one of Stroman or Clarke who doesn't get it done. Or if Nestor's back, you have Nestor there. I will say, especially with the elbow inflammation, I like the idea of Nestor coming out of the bullpen, honestly. Looking at Nestor, he seems like he'd be great in the bullpen for 3 innings if need be. He's someone who could always step in and also start. The man has range on what he can do because, yeah, he's not going to throw for 9 innings, but when he throws, sometimes he's looking phenomenal, and that includes recently. With this elbow inflammation, I think it's a sign to say, hey, let's throw this guy in the bullpen in the playoffs if he gets back. If not, that is going to be harmful for the Yankees because they need some reliable lefties in that bullpen. Let me know who you guys want to see the playoff rotation be. Let me know what you think on the Nestor stuff. Subscribe, post notifications. Have a great day. Go Yankees.